Many of us like to move some of our indoor plants outside in the summertime and display them either in a patio area or a shaded area of the landscape, or perhaps just use them for color somewhere out of doors. And now is the time that we need to start thinking about bringing those back inside, but there may be a few things you want to do in order to prepare the plants to bring them back inside. One thing we do want to be sure and remember is that many of these indoor plants are temperature sensitive plants, and as the nighttime temperatures begin to drop into the low 60s or particularly into the 50s, you may have some chill injury on the plant. So you want to start bringing those plants indoors sometime right away, and at least before mid to late October. But before you bring them indoors, do a good check on them. Take a look at the plants, and if there are insects and some sort of trash and other things that have fallen into the pots and the plants, clean all those out before you take them inside. You may also want to lightly sprinkle the plants or mist them or wash them just a little bit to get some of the dust and the dirt and the residue from them. But a little bit of preparation of these plants outside, getting them ready to bring indoors, will save you a lot of headaches later on. For example, if these have been buried in the soil, or if they've been sitting in an area where sow bugs may be a problem, you may have some sow bugs that are clinging to the bottom of the pot, or may even be in the top areas of the soil around the base of the plant. If this is the case, perhaps you'd want to drench these with a light application of an insecticide in order to get rid of some of those insects before you bring them in. Now, this is the Sansevieria plant, and it's a nice plant to take out of doors and have in a semi-shady or partly sunny area. But then also it's a nice indoor plant and will not overwinter outside, so that's one you'd want to bring back inside if you've had that. Another plant that many people like to put out of doors is the arrowleaf plant. Now, this plant does grow rather rapidly, and through the summertime, if you've had it out of doors, you may have noticed that a lot of the leaves have begun to brown and go down toward the base of the plant. And so it's a good idea to clean that plant up a little bit before you bring it in and pull off all those old dead leaves, and there you can look down inside the pot and see again if there's any trash or leaves from trees or shrubs that may have fallen into the plant, and give that one a good cleaning up also. But again, I think it's a good idea to check these plants out good, and again check them for insects, and chances are you're going to have some insect problems on those plants. You'll have maybe some spider mites on there, some as I mentioned, sow bugs, any of the outdoor types of insects you don't want to bring inside. Then take a close look at your plant to be sure that you don't have some little varmints harboring on the underneath side of the leaf, such as we have here, where an insect has spun a web and formed somewhat of a cocoon inside there. Rub those off and take them off, because once you bring those indoors into the warm area, those insects are going to hatch out and cause you some real problems inside and continue to feed on those plants. Now, there may be some other plants that we don't normally think of as indoor plants, but you've grown them out in your garden this summer and you want to try to overwinter those also, such as this tropical hibiscus, for example. Obviously, this is a plant that is not going to be winter hardy out of doors. In fact, after we've had one or two pretty severe frosts, this plant is going to go down, and so you would want to try to keep this indoors also in a warm area. Now, unless you've got a rather large sunroom or a large area indoors that has some bright light from the south or the east windows, you may not have too much success in keeping this indoors, but still you may want to try. And what you would want to do is, with your hibiscus, cut the growth back about 1/3 to 1/2 of the length all over the entire plant, and then move it indoors and just keep it lightly watered through the winter time. You don't want to promote growth on it. What you want to do is just maintain this plant, and then take it back outside next spring after all danger of frost has passed. Some people have had success with these in overwintering them in heated garages, or even in a garage in southern Oklahoma that may be well insulated, even though it's not heated. And in that case, again, you'd want to cut the plant back, take it inside the garage, and let it go into sort of a semi-dormant state. Just give it just enough water to keep the soil slightly moist through the winter time. You may notice that the leaves will probably drop, but the plant will remain alive. And if you have a really severe cold spell, and it's predicted to where it may be getting down to extremely cold at night, maybe in the teens or close to 0, and your garage will not maintain a temperature above freezing, then set it inside a closet or inside your home for a few days until the temperature moderates again. But these plants may be worth trying to overwinter. Of course, they're rather expensive plants when you're ready to replace them in your landscape next summer, and they may be worth the effort that you want to go to in trying to overwinter them. And another plant that you may want to think about overwintering, of course, is the geranium. And you treat the geranium much like you would the tropical hibiscus. If you had these in a planter out of doors, or if you have them growing in your garden, you want to dig them and repot them, you could bring those indoors also in a nice sunny room, or cut them back and keep them in an unheated or in a heated garage or well-insulated garage, and you may have success also in overwintering the geraniums. But maybe a better way to overwinter these is to simply take cuttings from them and start you some new plants, because they take up much less space, of course, indoors, and you could keep several plants in the same space. You'd be able to keep this one large one. And in a few minutes, Sue's going to be giving you some tips on how to take cuttings from geraniums and some other annuals if you want to start those for the winter time. Well, one more indoor plant that a lot of people like to take out of doors, and now it's time to bring it back inside and start giving it some extra special care, is the Christmas cactus. The Christmas cactus is a short day plant, which means that as the days become shorter in the fall, it triggers the flowering response of this plant. But also something that's necessary to trigger the flowering response of this plant is to allow it to run rather dry. So from now on until you start seeing buds appearing, flower buds appearing on the end of your Christmas cactus, let the soil remain dry in the pot. Keep it where it can be exposed to short days. This means the natural day length that we're having now, or if you have this inside where there's a bright light at night, or where you're in a room that's frequently used at night, you may want to move it into a room where it does not get any artificial light, or else move it into a closet during the nighttime hours and bring it back the next morning. But the Christmas cactus is a really nice plant. We need to also do some of the same precautions we did with our other indoor plants that we're bringing inside now, such as removing all the trash. Look around for any types of disease or insect damage that may be on the plant and try to remove those, or remove the little webs and the other types of cocoons that we may find growing on this plant. And then even another precaution is, in order to protect the plant somewhat from insect damage, is to go ahead and spray this plant and the other indoor plants with an safe insecticide before you bring them indoors. And in just a few minutes, I'll be taking this into the garage and the garden shed, and spraying these plants. The way I'll be doing this is using a very safe insecticide on indoor plants, such as an aerosol spray that contains pyrethrum, or a very light application of a spray that contains orthene. Some insecticide that's very, very safe to use on the plants. And what I like to do is set the plants inside a plastic bag, give it a good application of the spray, bring the bag back up over it, and then keep the bag closed for a couple of hours to sort of fumigate the plant. Then remove the bag, allow the plant then to aerate for a while and the insecticide dissipate before bringing it on indoors where it will be in its final place. But I want to caution you that if you do treat your plants with insecticides such as this, be sure and do it in a shady area. If you put these plants inside a plastic bag and treat them out of doors in the bright sun like we are here, within just a few minutes, of course, it will cook the plant. So be sure and do those in a shady area. One of the things I like about the Christmas cactus is that we can take cuttings from this plant rather easily and pot these up in smaller pots and use them for gifts at this time of the year. Here are several pots of the Christmas cactus we started about a year ago. Cuttings were taken. These were then potted up to about 4 or 5 plants per pot, and they'll make a nice gift because about early December they'll begin blooming, and they would be a nice gift for a friend. So I hope you take some special precautions with your plants if you've got them out of doors in order to bring them back inside, and so that they will be well taken care of indoors as they were out of doors.